In agreement with Jim Radcliffe, this is what Manchester United said. We are delighted to have agreed this deal with Sir Jim Radcliffe and Ineos as part of the strategic review we announced in November 2022. We committed to look at a variety of alternatives to help enhance Manchester United with a focus on delivering success for our men's, women's and academy teams. Sir Jim and Ineos bring a wealth of commercial experience as well as significant financial commitment into the club, and through Ineos, Manchester United will have access to seasoned high-performance professionals, experience in creating and leading elite teams from both inside and outside the game. Manchester United has talented people right across the club, and our desire is to always improve at every level to help bring our great fans more success in the future. There's more. This is what Sir Jim Radcliffe had to say. As a local boy, and we should have some music playing, and a lifelong supporter of the club, I'm very pleased that we've been able to agree a deal with the Manchester United board that delegates us management responsibility of the football operations of the club. Whilst the commercial success of the club has ensured that there has always been available funds to win trophies at the highest level, this potential has not been fully unlocked in recent times. We recognise that a lot of challenges and hard work lie ahead, which we will approach with rigour, professionalism and passion. Our shared ambition is clear. We all want to see Manchester United back where we belong, at the very top of English, European and world football. Mark Ogden joins us from Manchester to give us the latest.
Very disappointing. I thought it was going to be Rob Dawson.
No, it's not Rob Dawson. He couldn't make it. He was busy. So was Gab. So was Jules. Yeah. So we've got Mark. Mark, how excited should
Santa's elf.
How much should Manchester United fans? How excited should they be?
Well, they should be excited in the sense that the Glazers are taking a back seat from the football side of it, and their influence is diminishing. But you know, let's put the brakes in a little bit. This isn't going to get ratified by the Premier League for 6 to 8 weeks, so that the January transfer window, that's irrelevant. That's not going to make any difference because Sir Jim Radcliffe probably won't have his arrival on the board signed off until February. So January is going to be a normal Glazer transfer window, which means not a lot will happen. They might get a couple of players out, might get a couple on loan at the end of it, but nothing substantial. I think that the idea that Man United fans can have a bright future starts in the summer, really. I think that Sir Jim Radcliffe and his team will come in February time, look at what the situation is. They've already done quite a bit of due diligence, but I don't think they can make any substantial changes, significant changes, until the end of the season. And by that point, we'll know whether Erik ten Hag has managed to get the team out of this terrible slump they're in. A lot of the players will have had 6 more months to prove that they're either good enough or not good enough. So I think by that point, that's when change will start to happen. But in the short term, they've pledged £250 million, $200 million to upgrading Old Trafford, and that really won't even touch the sides because it needs a lot more than that. But it's going to do the basics, fix the roof for a start, maybe stop it leaking on the fans who pay a lot of money to watch United. And beyond that, they'll make a couple of appointments. Jean-Claude Blanc, the former Juventus CEO, who was kind of pivotal to Juventus coming out of their post-Calciopoli situation back in the early 2000s, he'll be on the board as well. So promising times, I think, but again, with United, nothing ever happens quickly, so it's going to take a while for this all to seep through to make a difference. So let's wait and see how long it takes.
Why does it all have to be confirmed for them to do any sort of activity in January? Surely they could just have a conversation between them and the Glazers to get the people in they want before it's all signed and sealed, Mark?
Well, the Premier League have to do their owners and directors test. And I think that's going to be a formality, but legally, nothing can be signed off properly until that's done. So we're not talking about a Middle East state with questionable human rights records here. So I think it'll be a lot more straightforward than maybe other potential takeovers. But there's still issues to address, whether there are potential problems with, Sir Jim Radcliffe's ownership of Nice, his ownership of Lausanne. Are there any issues there that the Premier League have to be, satisfied about? I don't think there will be, but it still takes time, and it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks. And until that's done, I don't see any successful businessman like Sir Jim Radcliffe putting money forward before it's all done and dusted. So it's just another delay. It's been November 2022 when it all started, and if it's going to be February 2024 when it ends, I mean, that's the end of the beginning, isn't it? It's not the beginning of the end. It's like, what next? But I do think if you're a Man United fan, there will be a reason to have a good Christmas now, even though it's very late on Christmas Eve to be announcing this. But they can say from now on, at least they've got people that seem to have the right idea, that want to win, that have got a bit of sporting expertise behind them, because the Glazers have no will to win and no sporting expertise. So sure, that's a positive that's changed.
There you are. Good.
Which is why they asked, as it was being reported today by Rob Dawson, not Augie.
Right.
That Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his Ineos organisation did not stipulate initially that they wanted football control. But it was the Glazers that wanted them to have that, which is just, like Augie was saying, it's an admittance that they are utterly and have been utterly clueless in running this football club. Unfortunately, it's been ran so far into the ground, as Mark said, where do they start? Patching up the stadium or renovating it and the training ground? I mean, the playing staff, the problems with the Sanchos and others. I mean, there is so much. Where do you start as people coming in trying to, get the clean sweep out and clean it up? It's such a mess before we even get to the manager and the results. And of course, the Aston Villa next, which is very short term in terms of their outlook. But it's a huge game for them, and one I wouldn't. Although this might be some good Christmas news for Man United fans, they've got to do one thing still: play football, and that's a problem.
Nadem, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very, very good statement. It sounds really, really exciting, and I'm sure that a more competent Man United would be fantastic for their fan base. But I've got to be completely open and honest. Like, the incompetence is far more entertaining from the standpoint of millions of others. But fair play to them if he gets it across the line. I hope that, he does make them more competitive, because it will help the brand that is the Premier League as such. But, unless he's providing better service to Højlund or he's finding Rashford a way to score some goals, some of those alternatives that they speak about, it'll be interesting to see what they're going to be. Because if they do believe they should be at the very top of English football and world football overall, there are a lot of teams they need to get past at this point who are in a far better position. So let's see what they do.
They obviously have a huge mountain to climb after a dreadful start to the season, no matter when the deal is officially done. Just a reminder how bad it's been. 13 defeats in their opening 26 games. That's the worst start since 1930. No goals in the last 4 matches. You have to go back to 1992 for the last time that happened. And they've only got 18 goals in the Premier League this campaign. Only Sheffield United have fewer. As you mentioned, it's Villa next. That is on Boxing Day, and it's tight when the bookies can't really separate them. 3-2 for Manchester United. Aston Villa then coming at 8-5. A draw at 5-2. Mark, yesterday was such a mess yet again in that defeat against West Ham. You looked at when he got rid of Marcus Rashford, maybe that would change things. That obviously had a very temporary change. Then it's all back to being rubbish. It's just problems everywhere once again, isn't there?
It is, and I watched that game yesterday, and I just thought that it was basically a team of kids. And I think sometimes Man United, they try and get away with it with the fans by saying, look, we're bringing all these kids through, we're giving kids a chance. Louis van Gaal did the same sort of thing, brought loads of kids through, but they weren't good enough. The kids just simply weren't good enough. And I think, you have to question whether Palistra's going to be good enough, whether, Anthony's going to be good enough. I think we know the answer to that one. And I think it's quite a sad team to watch. Ten Hag makes a lot of excuses, injuries and, lots of games, but they can't score a goal. And that's down to him. They can't score a goal in, 4 games now? And that is embarrassing. And I think, the statement we've seen tonight from Ineos and the Glazers, he doesn't mention Erik ten Hag, but I think we all know that the big question is, of many questions about this takeover, the big question is what happens to Ten Hag, because I think, as things are going on, I can't see him surviving this change of regime, because the Ineos group want to win. They want to make a quick start. So Jim Ratcliffe's 71. He's not going to be wanting to hang around for a 20-year project. So if Ten Hag can't turn this around, it is on him. And I think they've now got 1 game a week for the next 6 months. They've got no European commitments, no Carabao Cup. So he's got time on the training pitch now to make these players better, get them fit. And he hasn't been able to do that. So there's a massive question mark over Ten Hag. And with every defeat, with every terrible performance, his future looks even bleaker. And I think I'd be really surprised if he's there at the start of next season, shall we say. If
you looked at his press conferences alone, it's enough to make you think that anybody with any nous would remove him, because since day one of this season, he has talked the biggest load of garbage after a game. And I think he'd have got much more respect if he'd come out to the press and fronted up.
Right.
And fronted up. But he hasn't. He's come out with all this gobbledygook about how they control games and about refs' decisions and about this and about that. It's always been about something apart from his team, generally. And I think that's made him look even weaker. And I think it's made him look weaker in the dressing room, because players, even the unscrupulous ones that are there who most of them, as we know, are quite a few of them are bad apples. But players listen and they see quotes and they talk about this and they go, actually, we were pretty garbage. And Luke Shaw, to be fair, was asked some questions after the West Ham game and gave some relatively straight answers. He said, look, it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough, and this is not what Man United are all about. And so I think not only the results, but words matter, and Ten Hag's words this year have been as bad as his team's performances.
Nathan, what's going to happen against Villa on Boxing Day?
Oh, my gosh. You know, for how Villa are, the fact that, you know, they couldn't get that win against Sheffield United the other day, that was a big surprise to me. And going to Old Trafford, for as much as a lot of teams get a lot of points there, I just feel like there's going to be a reaction from United. There's going to be a reaction from their fans. There's going to be maybe a bit of jubilation because they can see these things happen with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So I'm not necessarily leaning for a Villa win. I think Villa at home, you know, they're nearly perfect, but I still favour United. And that's a weird thing for me to say, given the fact that, you know, they don't score any goals. But maybe I'm trying to curse it. Who knows, Dan? Who knows?
Yeah, it's the old Nathan double bluff, isn't it?
He plays a double bluff every time.
Yeah, it's a predictable move from Mr. Inoue.
Yeah, consistent.
Back to the drawing board then for Mauricio Pochettino as it finishes Wolves 2, Chelsea 1. Let's just take a look at what that means in the Premier League table. Well, for Chelsea, they sit 10th. Take a look at that. They are already 18 points off Arsenal at the top of the table. They've only played 18 matches this season. Shaka and Nadim are, of course, with us, but let's start with Mr. Merry Christmas.
Well, this is a very serious football show today, so...
Right.
We can't take Chelsea and Man United serious. How can we take ourselves serious, you know what I mean?
This was bad again from Chelsea.
Well, I think Chelsea and Man U should just play off between themselves between now and end of the season.
Like the opposite of a Super League.
And the loser loses because it's getting a bit Groundhog Day of talking about Man United yesterday, and it's the same with Chelsea. Look, a mishmash still of players coming on and throwing the kitchen sink at the end and all these subs, but you know the decision making, particularly from Raheem Sterling, I think that's beyond the pale.
How would you have reacted if you were Cole Palmer?
Oh, well, Cole Palmer's a youngster, right? But let me tell you, in all the experienced dressing rooms I've played in, that would have been a problem at half-time.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Particularly when you're in the position that you're in. The club's struggling, the team's struggling, the manager's struggling. It's not about you. It's about playing a simple 5-yard pass to the right, and don't tell me he never saw it. Right, because you can see, unless you've got blinkers on, you can see in your peripheral vision, you know you've got a couple of players there. And it's a simple pass, job done, they take the lead, and who knows what's going to happen. Now, that's not why they're where they are in the league and blah, blah, blah. But when you're down there, you need to make good decisions, and that was an awful decision. But, you know, up front, they are horrendous. Up front, Nico Jackson, somebody will have to tell me what he does. I mean, he played a little bit off Breuer today, and then they made some changes. He's got 8 yellow cards as a front man, probably more than he's had strikes at goal. I mean, it's just horrendous, and it asks questions about the recruitment again, because he's clearly not good enough to play as a headline striker in the Premier League.
Nadim, I just want to go back to that Sterling moment, because it was so kind of definitive when it came to the result of this match. You felt if Cole Palmer would have scored from that, then it could have obviously changed everything. Do you agree with Craig that Sterling's out of order there?
I agree with Craig in the sense that the better option would have been to pass, but in reality, Raheem Sterling's good enough to be able to finish that in a better way. I think Jose Sar's read him from sort of days ago in terms of when he dived to his left-hand side to deal with it. But again, like, if half-time came and they're going to discuss that, I wonder if Sterling's thinking, you know, I should have passed, or whether he's thinking he should have put a better finish towards it. But for them, you know, this is a case of their season. This is how their season's been. This is how last season was. This is a team that huffs and puffs, but unfortunately misses a ton of chances. And we saw that again today because they had some great opportunities. And to come away with a 2-1 defeat in a game which they feel that they should have won, I think it comes down to the finishing, because everybody concedes. But with the quality they have, they should be scoring more and they shouldn't be missing as many chances as they do, in my opinion.
And Nkunku came on and took his chance. Shaq, if we're going to have one little glimpse of a positive light for Chelsea fans.
Yeah, we've been waiting all season long for Nkunku to have some kind of an impact for Chelsea, in the hope that he changes their fortunes. Listen, Nkunku comes on and all of a sudden there's a sense of quality about Chelsea's attacking play that we hadn't seen, certainly not during the course of this game, and probably hadn't seen all season long, the Carabao Cup game aside. But if Chelsea made all their own problems, I'm with Craig. I thought Raheem Sterling not passing was inexcusable. If he's on his own and Sam makes that save, you say really good save by the Wolves goalkeeper. Not passing to his right, where he's got two players, it's simply inexcusable. And that kind of summed up Chelsea. No, again, to your question, we've been waiting for Nkunku to come back for so long, and he showed a sense of quality, a sense of composure, of calm about Chelsea, but it's going to take a whole lot more than that on this showing to turn around their fortunes.
You take a look at it, and Nathan mentioned the missed opportunities. In fact, they've missed more big chances than any other team in the league this season. They're first ahead of Everton.
Have I got my bobble in the right place here?
Shut up with your blooming thing. Look, if you take a look at this, does this make a difference? You're creating chances.
I'm fed up looking at these kind of stats, right? You know, and I tell you why. Because this has been hard. They've been harping on about this at Chelsea now. You know, Pochettino's harping on about it, trying to drive it as this is why we are where we are. Graham Potter was very similar, maybe not quite as much, but it was always, oh, we're dominating games, we can't finish, which they did a lot of times. And Thomas Tuchel, to some extent, was singing from the same hymn sheet. Blah, 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 blah. That's three managers. Come on, we can't keep using this as an excuse. The Sterling one was just downright crazy decision-making, right? That's not down to bad finishing. Taking a strike at goal there should never have been an option with the options that he had to his side. And Nico Jackson, you know, at the moment, it just looks like this Premier League is just too much for him. Yeah. You know, that's not bad finishing, it's bad players. And you know, look, at the end of the day, you know, do you think they'll sell that to the Chelsea fans and say, oh, you know, look at this stat here, we're sitting in mid-table mediocrity, but we're creating a lot of chances. I mean, come on, this has been the excuse now for, I would say, at least 2.5 years.
We'll talk about Manchester United in a moment and their takeover. Who's worse off, though, Shaq, on the pitch, United or Chelsea?
Oh goodness. I'm going to have to say I think United are worse off. I don't see where a spark is coming from for Manchester United. And as I mentioned, Nkunku coming back, maybe that changes things. Maybe a little bit of a run in games and a growing confidence for Chelsea. Again, season kind of moved up the
Shaq,
table.
you're really not selling this.
Well, I mean, take your pick. I don't want to be either. Is the God's honest truth? I'm not sure who's better off.
Well, hold on. Let's just roll it back a little bit, right? I think what most of us agree, Man United, by their standards, are... You struggling with this?
No, carry on.
Man United, I know you struggle to take me serious at the best of times.
Get on with it.
Man United, I think we all agree, are, by their standards, abysmal, right? They gave Chelsea an absolute going-over. I mean, a trouncing, right? 28 efforts they created. It could have been 6 or 7 at Old Trafford. This is a Man United side that struggled to open anybody up. And yeah, Chelsea had 2 or 3 chances themselves, but nowhere near. So I think when you look at the two sides, as bad as Man United are, you can't argue at Old Trafford in the big game between a couple of daubers, they gave Chelsea an absolute doing. And it should have been much worse than it was. So Chelsea are they're in a real bad position here. I mean, both are, of course. And I get what Shaq is saying. It's a real difficult conundrum. But recent history will tell you that Chelsea can't beat anybody of any note. They were lucky against Newcastle, but for Kieran Trippier, they wouldn't be in the semi-final of a Carabao Cup. I mean, if that's not papering over the cracks, I don't know what is.
And there just doesn't seem any sort of spine to this Chelsea side, Nathan.
You could say that, but you know, you look at it, Thiago Silva's playing every single game. Whether the fact that a 38, 39-year-old is like a pivotal part of your strategy If that's a good thing, I'm not sure. And then in midfield, you've obviously got Gallagher, who I think has played well this season, although now there are rumours that he's going to be sold in January, perhaps. But yeah, it's just, for me, it's just up top. But I think what I would say is a comparison between them and United, for as much as United are in a better position league-wise, and they're not as far away from their objectives, I think personally United are a tougher watch. Because you look at them, I think they've scored 18 goals in the league, which is the same as Burnley, it's the same as Luton, it's the same as Crystal Palace. So they can grind out a 1-0 perhaps every so often. You know, Onana's kept clean sheets and, you know, we never really come away from United game thinking, oh, that was potentially exciting. But when we see Chelsea click, and it might be, you know, for 5 minutes a weekend, but when we see them click, it makes sense. You're seeing Cole Palmer, Sterling's, people like that charging forward. You're seeing some of the energy in midfield, some of the good football. But then I think, as is the case with both sides, they've got a ton of injuries as well. So I think the two are kind of in the same sort of boat. But I think Chelsea would happily be further up the table like Man United are because, you know, as it stands, like, what a bad few months that's been for both sides.
I agree.
And you take a look at the money, obviously, that's spent, Shaq, and that's why Chelsea is such a big story. Since he's arrived, the net spent €742 million for Todd Boehly. Since he's arrived, they are 12th when it comes to the points per game and 12th when it comes to the goals per game.
It's ridiculous. And listen, this speaks to a bigger problem within football. And oftentimes we look at the 11 that cross the line and put it down exclusively to them. But from the time Todd Boehly arrived, there has been what we all describe as a scattergun transfer approach. There doesn't seem to be any real thinking behind who they go after other than if somebody else is interested in this player, we are too, without any thought as to how it fits into what they're doing, what they're trying to build. And then even after the first year, he comes out and says, well, no more of that. We're going to be a lot more sensible about our spending. Thank goodness for Saudi Arabia. They come in and top up their coffers. And then they just turn around and go and do the exact same thing later on in the summer. And as a result, you have a bunch of talented players in a mismatched team, and you get these ridiculous results and performances. Todd Boehly has got to hand the reins over to somebody who knows what they're doing football-wise, because I don't think anything about what he's offered has built on what we've seen from Abramovich for all those years. He's tried to one-up Abramovich and failed miserably.